What's up, AfterBuzzers? We are back with another episode of the Titan Games After Show. That's right, we're talking about Season 1, Episode 3, and we've got a very special guest, so stay tuned.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
See, that's the right note. That's the right note to start on, guys.
So intense, man.
Nice, and it's the Titan Games. It's not the average confrontation games. We're talking Titans, guys.
I feel like I'm about to walk into battle right now.
That's absolutely right. That's absolutely
We should
right.
come to the show with like Gladiator.
Yes, totally.
It's already a full enough studio. We need to have some armor that really takes up some space. Guys, you know what that music means. It's another episode of the Titan Games After Show right here on AfterBuzz TV. We've got a full studio, so let's not waste any time. My name is Ty Matthews. You can find me online at Ty Matthews PMA. To my left, she's a fitness model. You've seen her on AfterBuzz talking about Yellowstone before. You can find her online at Julana Dizon because it's Julana Dizon.
Yeah, hi guys, my name's Julana. What's
awesome.
up? I'm super excited to have a full panel this week and a special guest.
So much. See, we were tag teaming it last week, but we got a full panel. We got some more hosts to introduce y'all to. Two Julana's left. You've seen her online or on AfterBuzz talking about Botched before, as well as America's Got Talent. Find her online at _Tyra Prude because it's Tyra Prude.
Yeah. So yeah, hey guys, I'm Tyra Prude. As you said, you can find me on all social media platforms at _Tyra Prude, and I'm just so happy to be here.
Right,
happy to have a full panel.
A lot to talk about. Two Tyras left. You've seen them on AfterBuzz talking about WWE's Mixed Match Challenge as well as MTV's The Challenge. Lots of challenges in there. Perfect for this panel. You can find them on Twitter at DPR Christopher. David, Christopher.
Yeah. All right. No, I think that was awesome, dude.
Amazing.
Yeah, we don't even have to introduce ourselves anymore.
Yeah, what he said.
I was left with what else to say.
Awesome. Like,
Your thoughts, your feelings, how you're feeling about this. About the Titan Games.
I thought it was awesome. Realistically, if I can, in my crazy mind, think of like something that I would want to compete on, which I was trying to, which we talked about
that before the show.
But no, this would be it. This is intense. You know, I've competed on other like I was on Stone Cold's Broken Skull Challenge, and this tops that, dude. That was nothing compared to like watching it. I'm like, I want to do this.
Yeah, this is wild. This is wild. Now, guys, it is a very special episode this week. We have got a very special guest in studio here. She's a fitness model as well as a future Titan Games competitor. You can find her online at Shannon Shape because it's Shannon Decker.
Yes, which is I. Thank you. No, I'm so excited you guys are pumped on Titan Games because it's such a cool show, and I'm so happy to be here because I don't have to be screaming at my TV in the living room. And I competed on the show, and every challenge I see, I'm like, wait, I want to do that one too. Right. So I feel the same way as you, David.
It's so fun.
It was so fun.
It's hard not to lose it out in the studio while we're watching.
Right?
Some of those competitions get so intense.
Yeah.
But we got to keep it quiet. We got to keep it subdued. There are other people watching on the shows. It's very, very hard to keep it contained.
Totally understand. I feel the same way.
Now, I got to ask, like, going into, are you a fan of The Rock, by the way?
Absolutely.
So going into
like, who's not?
Right.
Sorry.
Dumb question, right? No. But I mean, did that kind of throw off your psyche a little? Because I mean, this is intense as it is just the competition itself. But I mean, to also be there in front of like someone you probably look up to, did that add to that pressure? And
that's such a good question. I've never thought about that before because he's like right there and he's like giving you a pep talk and like afterwards you get to give him a hug and stuff. But I think all of the competitors are such athletes that you just go into your zone. So your family's in the stands, The Rock is standing right next to you, all the other competitors are, there also, but I think you just kind of block it out and you're just focused on the task ahead. So after, it's nice to see him and have him tell you good job, and that's huge. But I think you're just so focused on what you got to do, and everybody there just wants to win because we're such athletes. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
we were talking about it before the show. Like, everything he says is inspiring. Like, he could read the phone book and it would be like, I gotta get off my ass.
It's like when somebody with an English accent or an Australian accent, they talk to you and they're like swearing at you, but you're like, it's like whatever The Rock says, it's like The Rock, so you're like, okay, got it.
Right,
You
exactly.
definitely have a new You know, sometimes you play those games and you're like, oh, I'm Shannon. The coolest thing I've ever done is I
Right.
hugged the rock.
Right.
You know, that's definitely
It's instantly
it's
a claim to
unbeatable,
fame.
I think.
I'll tell you guys a funny story, actually. So my mom, she's from Santa Barbara, and they invited all of our family to come and watch when we competed, which was so cool, right? And so The Rock is like everything he presents himself to be. Like, he's not lying on social media. He is that cool. He is that nice. He is that inspirational, right? And so they were lined us up in front of the camera, and they asked each one of my brother, my sister, me, and then my mom, like, a word that described The Rock. So, you know, my 18-year-old brother with his, like, crazy hair, and he's like, and he had this, like, incredible answer. He was, like, inspirational. And my sister, you know, she's 23, and she said some incredible answer. And then they get to my mom, and she's like, you know, I'm gonna have to say sexy. And we're all like, Mom,
Way to go, Mom.
Dad's
Someone
gonna
has to
say
say
that,
it.
right?
Someone has to say it.
She's just like, well,
She's honest. She's an honest woman. Hey, that's awesome.
we were lost there. We were like, okay. It was very funny.
Of course. So let's get into it. Let's start off with heavy metal. These guys are hauling heavy ass chains right up this hill. Christopher Watts taking on Josh Ingram. I want to get your guys' thoughts on this game.
That's intense, man. I mean, like, as you saw, that is upper body. That is literally, I mean, that thing is just on your back. That's your core. That's your legs, glutes, everything. And you're climbing up that hill. Like, that is gnarly. I mean, definitely do not skip leg day on that one. That's for sure going to
Definitely.
kill you.
Yeah, definitely.
It's nuts.
Tyra, what do you
Yeah,
think?
I think it's really intense. And then just to know, like, as you get up higher and, like, it gets even harder, the weights are more heavier, it's just like, wow, you literally have to use everything to make it up there, and then have to lift up the weight box or whatever.
Oh yeah,
So
the concrete block
Yeah,
at the end.
it's-
Yeah.
I'm not fit enough for it.
I think what I liked best about this particular competition was that both of these contestants, I feel like, were very mentally strong and in their training and their background and how they prepared. But also that at the end where they're doing
The rolling,
what do you call it? What is
a
crank?
wheeling,
Crank.
cranking,
Thank
that's
you.
good.
The crank. I was so impressed. Like, once Chris really got going and using his momentum to do it, it almost reminded me of the way that gymnasts do their little bar flip. I have
Yeah.
the worst terminology today. I'm so sorry, but you
No,
know
we
when
get
they're
it.
flipping over the
Yeah,
bar.
and he was really smart about it too. Like, he was like, okay, I need to jump, so he
Right.
starts
Yeah.
like literally like
Throwing his whole body into that
to get
crank.
to it. Like, that was amazing within itself. Like, knowing that it's not just in your arms. If you use your whole body, you can really like go further.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Shannon, with a game like this, it's so visually epic. It's this giant hill, 350 pounds of chains. We talked a little bit before the show about this kind of like Hunger Games aesthetic, fire everywhere. Is that intimidating, being in the presence of all of that kind of like bravado?
Absolutely. It just like ups the stakes, you know? It
Sure.
just makes it so intense, and you're like, I've got to do this. And I will say, for what you guys were just saying, it's so interesting watching the other challenges, because while you're in the middle of whatever challenge you're given, so it's like Hunger Games status, you don't know what's going to come out of the sky, right? They tell you like cut very close, you know, 30 minutes. Okay, this
Really?
is what
Okay.
you're going to do, and these are the rules. You got it? Cool, okay. Get prepared.
Really?
So you're sitting back there and you're getting hyped up and warmed up, and you're like, okay, I'm going to do it this way. But then you get to the crank and you're like, crap, I don't have enough arm strength to do it. I better figure out a different way, a different tactic, because it's do or die, like Hunger Games style. I have to get this chain around here. So you can have a strategy going in to your challenge, but you have to adjust on the fly and just figure it out. So you don't really have time sometimes to think about it. You just have to react.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, thinking about that adaptability. Yeah, like as they say, and we'll get into later on, it's not purely strength. There's so many other elements to think about.
Just the mental aspect in general, like you're saying, that is crazy in itself to psych yourself up. And then too, it's like Mike Tyson says, everybody's got a plan until you're punched in the face, right? Or no. So it's like, that's
Exactly.
crazy to have to adjust, especially on the fly.
On
with
the
all
fly
that
in
pressure.
front of everyone.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's intimidating enough that you have like all of these people people in the crowd and you're competing and you're on TV, you have to have your head in the game, and then you find out 30 minutes before. It's like, I don't know. Like, how do you mentally prepare for something like that?
You can't. You can't. We have a new saying in our home now. It's like, you can't practice punching through walls.
Yeah.
Like, you can't. You just have to sometimes take what life throws at you. And that's, they do all the backgrounds on everybody. And this show is like so much like an analogy for life. And so I think personally fitness is like, sometimes you can't plan for things, and stuff's going to come at you, and you just have to be like, okay, this is what we're doing. It's survival mode, and going to make the best of it, and going to not give up, and going to put everything I have into something. So I think that's like a good analogy for life,
Yeah, and you mentioned those backgrounds. Obviously, Christopher Watts being a Purple Heart recipient, Josh Ingram losing 60 pounds, kind of transforming himself as a chef. People come from such kind of different walks of life, that's got to really color how they approach competitions like this.
Yeah, and everybody, like, we did the combine together, so there was about 150 people before they broke it down to the 64 competitors. So every single person, it was so inspiring, and all of us are real life friends now. Like, every single person. And it's just like, you hear their stories, and then another one, and then another one. You're like, oh my gosh, like, such cool overcoming stories, or people have like overcome an obstacle, and it's just a reminder that you never know what somebody's overcome before by looking at them. You can't judge a book by its cover. So.
Absolutely, and I think that's almost like just obviously the basis of the show, other than obviously just a cool competition aspect, but it's like, that is it. Even The Rock said it during the show, how when they're fighting over the pole, you can't see your competitor, but he's like, that's also how life is. Sometimes you can't see what's coming and going blindly, and I think that's a very great point.
Yeah.
Man,
Yeah.
I just have this vision right now in my head of 150 really strong, tight-looking people with The Rock leading them, like in some kind of stretching workout or something. Like, that must have been so epic.
We did, so at the combine we had to do, let me see if I can remember. So it was out here. So it was very hot, very, very hot. One of those weekends where it was ridiculous. And we were in a warehouse that they had made into like a combine area. So they had an long jump, they had a high jump, they had a deadlift, they had a VO2 max. So that's your maximum effort uphill on a treadmill. They just kept raising
Oh my God.
the speed
Fun.
super fun.
Wait,
Actually,
so was this like a final round casting?
Yeah, correct.
Wow.
There was interviews, and then this was kind of like to make sure you could handle the physicality of it all. And so then, what did they have? They had a deadlift. They had the monkey bars. I hadn't done that I'm not a CrossFitter. There were so many CrossFit people. So I wasn't, they had what else did they have? And then they had an obstacle course. So kind of like a football style combine, right? So then they were keeping track on how high you jumped, how far you jumped, how many times you could make it back and forth on the monkey bar, how many pounds you could lift, deadlifting, and how many reps, all this different stuff. Yeah. So it was pretty cool.
Good Lord. Even just qualifying for this show
It's
sounds like a nightmare.
But it's like a different group of people, these fitness people. We're all like, that was fun. I wish we could do that every weekend.
So was there like a scaling system, or how did they like narrow it down to the people?
We do not,
Okay.
you know TV better than anybody. But like, we hope we did our best. It was just cool. One of the things for me was that I walked into it. I love HIIT training, high intensity interval training. I was a spin instructor. I like to go run. I love to go do all the classes in LA, but I wasn't a big weights person. So it was really cool because all the people at the combine, I was like, I don't lift weights. They gave me their gloves, they gave me their belts, they gave me a quick lesson right before. And after I deadlift, I think I did 200 pounds 12 times.
Oh, look out.
And I was like, I get it. That was cool, because I'd always been so like anti-weights, know. And so since then I've been weight training more. So it was like, there's good things that come out of like getting out of your comfort zone and trying something new. So.
Yeah, everyone learns from everyone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we talked about Christopher Watts's his strategy of throwing his whole body into that crank. Ends up working out for him. He wins the challenge, advances on to Mount Olympus. Now let's talk about what we were talking about a little bit before, the Herculean Pull, which pits Anthony Hune versus Jasmine Gwynn. win. We got that moment of both of them going without even going for the exact same pole at the same time.
I was just baffled. I was like, why are they doing that? Like, that's not the end. Like,
as soon as they realized,
Yeah.
But I feel like it took them a really long time to realize.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Oh no, I mean, as soon as they realized, we were like, why are they just let the other person? I think it was Jasmine that had that thought, like, fine, I'm just gonna let her have it, you know?
And it helped in the end for her to just go ahead and bounce over to the next one.
Right? Be like, this is not the golden pole. This is not the one.
Well, I mean, as soon as you feel some kind of resistance or like pull back, I would kind of be like, maybe this isn't the right pole.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Maybe it could have been that, like, she was just like, this is really tough. Oh, okay, she's cooling on the other side. Let me go to this next one.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you didn't get to test it before. So you don't know if that's how it's supposed to feel.
Oh, interesting.
So you don't know that they're pulling.
I hadn't even thought about that.
Yeah,
Okay.
you don't know. You're like, oh, they made this really, really heavy and hard.
That's a good point.
It's
There's
like
a
you're
lot
just
of
trying to
resistance.
figure it out. Yeah.
Interesting. So when Jasmine finally, she's the first one to go for that golden pole, she gets that one huge pull, almost pulls it straight out of that hole. Like, that was like a huge kind of like gasping moment for me. What did you guys
Definitely.
think?
Me too.
I
I
thought
thought
it
she was going to have it. Sorry.
Yeah, no, same. I thought that was amazing how just when first pull, it was just like, whoa, okay, she has this. And then, it got a little rocky, but yeah.
Right.
No way! I totally knew she was gonna lose. No, I mean that was crazy. Yeah, the way they like obviously edited and made it all cool.
We talked a little bit about this last week. Like this game is it's so exciting because not a lot of them are so purely like head to head as this one is,
Yeah.
And like, so I wanted to ask you when we've watched shows like American Ninja Warrior, things like that, those are already so intense. There's got to be so much more pressure added when you're going head to head with someone else. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, some challenges were kind of like you needed to finish a challenge before your opponent, and then some were just like pitted, like death to the death style, like this one, So, and you're like friends with everybody just from going through the experience together, but then you really want to beat them really bad. So, and then, I think it just goes back where it honestly was anybody's game. Like we'd be back there being like waiting to see who won, and we couldn't believe who won when they walked back in. So I just think all I can think of is the very first half marathon I did. I was young and I was like thought I was so athletic, and then by the 6 mile, pregnant women were passing me, 75-year-old men were passing me. You just for fitness stuff, so much of it is hard after a certain time. You can be aesthetically strong but not as strong in other areas, or not as well versed with maybe Jasmine does stuff on her regular fitness routine where she does a lot of pulling.
Right, exactly.
I don't know. So you just had to go out there and do your best. You couldn't really think about beating the other person. All you could think about was doing your best, I guess is the best way
exactly. And I think that speaks to what you were saying before. You can't really prepare for this. You just kind of go in and hope for the best,
Yeah, and just make sure there's no second chances. You lay it all out on the line. And it was so cool to see the camaraderie between the competitors. So it was it was just I want to annihilate you, and at the end, you did a good job.
we see that after so many of these competitions, they're hugging and they're high-fiving and they're complimenting each other,
Every single person was a good person.
Yeah.
And being from LA, and being in the fitness industry, I feel so blessed that I meet good people because I'm in the fitness industry, but that's not always the case.
Sure.
So it was so cool to every single person was a good person. Yeah.
Well, you guys go through this crazy experience together. It's once in a lifetime, And then, of course, it's the old thing of when you have the bully and you fight the bully and you have that respect, I think in a sense of kind of obviously you earn that respect with each other. We just want to do this battle.
Yeah.
This is a crazy experience.
Yeah.
And it's awesome.
Exactly.
Definitely. Now, we'll get into the rest of the episode in just a minute, but we've got a special message for you. See, AfterBuzzers, our network produces after shows for nearly all of your favorite TV shows. So that's everything from dramas to reality TV to sci-fi and so much more. There's absolutely no network that works harder than we do to serve TV fans. But we need your help. See, we're asking that you please subscribe to one or more of our YouTube channels. By doing that, YouTube is going to suggest content that's tailor-made for you, and you're going to help AfterBuzz continue to grow. And if you're worried about pesky notifications, don't be, because those bad boys are optional. Just click them right off. So hit that subscribe button one time right now for this channel, and check out our other YouTube channels while you're at it. Let us know you did so in the comments, and we will thank you right here on the air. But for now, thank you for being the best fans and for helping us be the ESPN of TV Talk.
Yeah.
Now, let's get into this. Let's get into
Amen.
Let's talk about Frank the Tank for a second.
He's my favorite.
Sansonetti, my God, like, out of all the characters that we've seen, there have only been 3 episodes, but this guy, like, I'm not going to forget Frank the Tank anytime soon. What did you guys think?
I think he's that classic guy, that American gladiator, the wrestler, you know, that's what I see when I see Frank. You know, I love the guy. He's completely confident. I get it. I'm going to respect the fireman. That's awesome.
Sure.
I mean, I will have to say, I feel like, maybe I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but I feel like the challenge was a little bit in his favor, a little bit with the hammering and
definitely.
all upper body strength. I mean, you know, so as far as that aspect of watching it, I thought they should have picked a different challenge to make it a little bit more well-rounded.
Sure.
But I mean, I love the guy. He's entertaining. He's got crazy personality. You know what I mean? So it was fun to watch.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. He reminded me a lot of Anthony Furman from last week, who kind of faced the same thing. You know, he faced Benafuvai in Uprising and just got it right off the bat. But as we will get into, once he got to Mount Olympus, it was a little bit of a different story. But for right now, let's talk about the Atlas Smash. Frank Sansonetti versus Maximus Okoye. Now, Frank is 6'3", 245. Maximus is 6'7", 260.
Both big guys.
The tail of the tape on this is off the charts.
It's
literally.
Well, I mean, like I was saying, for me, I always like to root for the underdog. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So Maximus, I was rooting for him. I kind of already knew what the challenge was. You know, Frank's gonna have the advantage. But we'll see if the guy, you know, Maximus' endurance pulls through. We'll see if Frank gasses out with all that muscle, right?
Right.
You started seeing him a little bit. It happened, and I was like, okay, let's see. Is he gonna pull it off? He started kind of dying out. Then you see Maximus come back, and it was kind of back and forth. And then you see Frank just that power.
Well, there's an element of strategy to a lot of these competitions, and to this one in particular. You know, if you give up smashing and you just go to lift, you're lifting that much more weight.
Right.
You talked a little bit about the adaptability that you have to do. Does that put even more pressure on you, or are you sort of like kind of, you know, pushed by that?
You're pushed by it. Your adrenaline is going crazy. I talked to Frank for about an hour on the phone afterwards because we became buddies, and then Maximus he goes by Namdi too.
Yeah.
So he's a friend of mine. He's from LA. So these two are 2 of my favorite guys. They're both characters in their own right. They're just like The Rock. They're exactly who they present themselves to be. Like, Frank is bigger than life, and Namdi, you're just like, you're a specimen. I don't know what you are. But he's kind of like a quiet killer, Namdi is. But yeah, so I think both of them just were so excited to compete, and they knew they were going to probably go against each other because they're the 2 big guys, you know, so that makes so much sense. And that challenge was so crazy, you guys. I don't think you can even comprehend, like, how extreme that challenge was. And then they were like, to do another one after they just finished like the first one. Like, so he was trying to tell me what he had to do over the phone, and it's so interesting to describe the challenges if you don't get to see them, because you're like, because then I had to smash this like huge rock but get it light enough in order to pull it up, and you're trying to picture it as he's like telling me about it, and he actually ended up hurting his ankle really bad when he slipped.
Was it on that fall?
Yeah. So that's not like, his adrenaline must have been pumping so hard because his ankle was like swollen black and blue, and
wow, we couldn't even tell that he was in any kind of
yeah, he's like, I didn't even think shit. I just jumped back on the platform, and I was like,
his voice is so wild.
He's just like, he does have a lot of confidence. I don't know who said that, but he's
in his zone.
I'm like, we always would say, like, if you want anybody rescuing you from a burning building, it is Frank the Tank. Like, but also just such good guys, and they put their heart and soul into that challenge.
It seems like it. We got a little bit of that sort of that dichotomy, that yin yang, when they were talking about both, you know, Maximus, how he also goes by Namdi, and how they kind of both represent these like disparate sides of his personality, you know?
He's a fun guy. it's a small fitness community in LA. So him and Nikki Neal, she competed night one.
Yeah.
She's a good girlfriend of mine. And Frank actually knew some of my friends from LA because he actually did another show a while back. I don't know if they talked about that, but he won. I think it was like, do you guys remember something like Are You Afraid of the Dark or some dark show? Do you remember that?
Nickelodeon.
The books?
Not that one.
No.
I don't know if
That's
that's
what
the
I'm
one she's
thinking
talking
about,
about.
yeah.
It was like a survival show.
Really?
Yeah, so his mental toughness is like crazy.
Interesting. I'll have to look that up.
And
So
Nice.
cool.
he's so cool. And he has twins.
Yeah,
You saw that?
Madison
Yeah.
Anthony,
Yeah. So he has some he's like a really good hands-on dad, and he would always talk about his twins.
I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, before the Atlas Smash, we got to see Jess Griffith take on Aaron Lavoie in heavy metal. And we got kind of another example of that sort of thing where the first half really heavily favors one person. Aaron Lavoie, a world champion of lumberjack games.
That is so cool. I
All
wanna
sorts
look
of
that
stuff,
up.
right?
Yeah.
That's a thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
She flies up that hill on heavy metal, but once they get to the crank, it's Jess Griffith who puts in 30 hours a week in the gym. It's literally
a beast.
almost
Yeah.
it's a part-time job, literally.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I mean, Shannon, okay, I know that you work out a lot and you also train people a lot, but what can you do for 3 hours in the gym? Just like a total body workout every
Seriously?
time you work out? Or what?
I think she competes in CrossFit Games, if I
Interesting, okay.
remember right from social media. So it legit is a part-time job.
Yeah.
I think it's a full-time job because she does online training, I believe, and then she goes around the country competing. So she's working on her endurance. That's the thing about the Titan Games. You can have all the strength in the world, you can have all the endurance in the world, you can be flexible, blah, 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 but it's a combination of everything. So I would assume she warms up for a good half an hour. Then I would assume she does a lot of dynamic stretching, so like hip openers and all that kind of stuff. Then I would assume she goes through whatever day it is. I would assume full arm workout. So we're at about 90 minutes there. Then she probably does a cool down, another half an hour, and then she probably does some intensive stretching and recovery method stuff. So 3 hours.
Jeez.
It's a long
But
time.
yeah.
Yeah, seriously. So let's talk Mount Olympus, guys. We were talking about Frank the Tank. Let's talk about his downfall, sadly, on Mount Olympus, taking on Christopher Watts. He just blasts through that half-ton wall, charges right up the gates. It looks like he's just flying through, and then he gets to the rolling ascent, and it's a whole different story.
It was hard to watch.
Yeah.
I was just like, what, Frank?
I
Come
know.
on.
It was so
It really
heartbreaking.
hurt me because he's been this champ warrior, through it all. He freaking broke nearly half of that big concrete ball. So to see him struggling, it was just you just hear the commentators going it takes balance, and he has the upper body strength, but he doesn't have that balance to
He
go
actually
up.
had crazy balance.
Wow.
Really?
I think he was just gassed or his ankle or something. When we
Might
did
be.
the combine
yeah.
and I watched him, not to interrupt you, but I watched him on a balance beam run across that thing. I was like, oh my gosh. I was so surprised. So I don't know what
So
happened.
maybe it was the ankle, like you said.
Those bears
Yeah.
are tricky.
Yeah.
What if you mess up one little thing, boom, you're done. To get back on it, you have to just,
Exactly,
Yeah.
and we've mentioned before, it would be hard enough if they were level, but the fact that they're on an incline, gravity's
Makes it
working
worse,
against
yeah.
you.
Right.
Right.
Absolutely.
For me, I just kept thinking in my head that he looked like he was sinking in quicksand. He was
Yeah.
just gassing it up and then just
probably what
fall
it
down.
felt like.
You just
Yeah.
can
I'm sure it was so mentally frustrating.
You can see it
in
on
his
his face, yeah.
He was just I just wanted to hold the barrel thing.
Hold it still. Go, Frank, go!
That's just got to be such a heartbreaking way to go out, because it's you can't really give your all, because you're kind of
Right.
stuck right now.
Yeah.
It's you're capable of more. Just let me get past this.
Right.
But it's
Right, and at a certain point, Christopher Watts, when he's sliding back down the descent, after he cranks that torch upright and he's sliding back down, he's just passing Frank on the way
Right.
down. It's no.
Oh, it was so bad. It's bye.
It sucks. So I guess take it a little easy on him, though. I think it's probably a mixture of the ankle that had to trying to balance.
Sure, and
your
just the
ankle,
endurance alone,
Right.
after you push over a 1,000-pound wall and you charge up those gates,
Yeah.
that's got to take it out
Yeah,
of
and that
you.
goes back to
Yeah.
obviously what Shannon was saying, where you have to be well rounded in like I believe in obviously like you mix a little bit of endurance with the weight training, all that kind of stuff. He's clearly a heavy lifter, got a ton of strength. You know what I mean? And to see his competitor, I think he had a little bit more of an advantage if I had to just look. You know what I mean?
Right.
As far as his endurance and stuff like that, which this thing obviously takes a lot of endurance, so I think that was definitely a factor, trying to climb up those barrels pulling you down. So.
Yeah, definitely. And that's what makes me look forward to the end of the season, the Battle of the Titans,
Right.
because that's
So
going to be
excited.
the best of the best, the
best.
most well-rounded athletes taking on, the rest of the competition. That's
Right.
going to be exciting to watch.
Yeah, it's awesome. I look forward to it. Hopefully we'll see her there.
Right.
We don't know yet.
Right, exactly. Yeah, we're trying to be very, very careful. Just stay tuned.
Yes,
Stay tuned
yes.
during the season. Now let's talk Jess Griffith taking on Jasmine Gwynn in Mount Olympus. We saw a couple of real bad falls, real bad tumbles on the cliffs. What did you guys think when that happened?
It was very sad, like seeing it, but throughout it all, it was just like she had a lot of heart. Like I loved seeing her like still go through it. Like even though like she was behind, she still continued to complete the course.
Yeah, but they both fell. But I think also when you're doing a competition like that, that must be just the hardest thing to physically not be able to go on. Not because you don't have the willpower or the strength or the endurance, but because you're physically hurt. That must just be so heartbreaking.
Yeah, definitely. What does it feel like? I can't imagine that this is the only injury that was incurred with challenges this intense. What does it feel like when you see someone kind of go down like that?
You're like, thank goodness it's not me. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry. Sorry.
And you said you guys were friends.
I mean,
Right.
if we're being 100.
It was a real issue. If you anytime, and not talking bad about the
No.
show. It's just that if you're gonna do something that intense and that extreme, there's a good chance you're pushing yourself to limits. You're gonna get hurt, And so like, no matter how upset you are if you didn't win or you couldn't do your best, like if you didn't get hurt, you're like, okay, well, at least I'm not hurt, So there was, I know of like probably like 4 or 5 like.
Damn.
Yeah, it like pretty serious.
Yeah, well,
injuries,
and we as we saw last week with Lunar Impact, sometimes that adrenaline wears off and you don't feel it until afterwards. Did you
Yeah.
find that was the case?
Yeah, and just talking about like the frustration part of it, like having to work through, that's part of being mentally strong. Is at any time, think about if you're like trying to do something, you get frustrated, it just trips you up that much more. So you have to find a way to like breathe and like calm down and figure out a way to keep going, get through it. So it kind of plays into the mental strength you have to have with all of these challenges.
Right, exactly. Now, once Jess Griffith gets to the torch crank, she starts kind of pulling it backwards. Like what do you guys think of the sort of different approaches that these athletes are taking to these challenges?
I think we kind of talked about this last week. So how would you guys approach this one?
That's intense. I mean, again, like we talked about earlier, I would have to be in it. It's easy to say and stand from a distance. You know what I mean? But until you're in that thing, and like I said, I've competed on television before, and it's a whole different ball game. It's just like adrenaline, and you're zoned. So
Yeah.
it's crazy.
I think the best strategy I saw was when instead of like using the hammer and pulling, they would get closer to the ball and like yank it. Like I think that was the best because I don't know, maybe that extra string is what's causing it to be a little heavier. So putting all your momentum in just that one ball, if I was smart enough or strong enough to do it, that would be my strategy.
You're exactly right. Yeah.
Well, it's not just about like strength like we've been talking about. There's a lot of mathematics and physicality that go into these things, and when they design it, there's a way to do it with physics and math and everything, and your angles that will make it easier or harder.
Well, I will actually back that, and I don't know if I'll get in trouble for saying this, but do it. I've done some with American Ninja Warrior, and everything is tested. I'll just say that. But so there is mathematics to it, and they make sure it is doable. They make sure it's doable, obviously to the
same with
maybe barely
So there was a crew of testers, and they would test every obstacle beforehand. They were awesome people. There's like 5 or 6 of them, so they would go. You see them in the promos.
Okay, that's what I was gonna ask.
Yeah,
like when they show the
you see them in the promos, all super athletic, cool cool people. But with that being said, with I'll get in trouble with you. With when you as like an athlete and you start to get like FOMO when you're like watching American Ninja Warrior and you're like, they didn't even make that. I could totally make that. In your head, you really believe you can do it. There is a gym in Thousand Oaks that the American Ninja Warriors made. And this is before I tried out for Titan Games. And I went to this gym. I was like, I cannot do that. That is so hard. Wow. Like, it's so much harder than you are sitting on your couch looking at, thinking in your head, like,
absolutely,
I could do that.
have you ever tried the salmon ladder?
Yes, it's so
intense.
it's
That is hard.
crazy.
That is
yeah,
legitimately hard. Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's all so hard. It's so much harder than you think it is.
Exactly. Yeah. David and I were talking a little bit before we went live. I hosted 2 seasons of the American Ninja Warrior After Show, and I went to Tempest Free Running Academy and took a couple classes there. I swear to God, I've never, ever been that sore in my life.
Yeah.
Wow.
And in your head, you can just see yourself doing it so easily.
Right.
They make it look so easy.
Yeah. I will tell you, though, with I bet you a lot of the other competitors felt the same way, that once you do it once, you instantly want to do it again because you figured it out. But like I said, you don't get a test run. So it's like, you're like, oh, if I just would have like put my foot higher or grabbed overhand or punched the wall with my elbow, not my fist, or whatever it is, you're like, let me do it again. I'll do better. But
Right, you can't.
can't. Yeah.
Oh, that's so frustrating.
Yeah, it's super
Man, I'm
frustrating.
getting FOMO now. I want to go to this.
Right.
gym.
Try it out because you always
go
see
on
it
a
on
field
TV
trip.
and you're like, ooh, I
Yeah.
want to try it.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
didn't know there was a gym.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's
I'll have to get
actually
that
a couple out
It's
this way.
called, but the one I love is called Dojo Boom.
Okay.
Oh, yeah,
And
I know
it's
that.
from,
Oh, I know where that is. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. At the Jan's Marketplace, definitely.
exactly.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love that.
It's so fun. You can do like birthday parties there and they come and help you and teach you things, how to be a
Oh yeah,
a
that would be a
ninja.
fun birthday party.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Invite all your unathletic friends.
Meanwhile, yeah, there's a giant like graphic of Kevin Bull on the outside.
Yeah.
Just jacked as
Kevin's
hell.
there like every day.
That's
like
wild.
he's so cool. He takes selfies with all the little kids and like
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's super cool.
I love that, definitely. Now, Tyra, you talked a little bit about that strategy with the ball and chain, you know, getting really close to it. You gotta kind of like think outside the box. If you can say, were there any sort of like really creative kind of strategies that you saw
For Mount Olympus?
for any of them, for any of the competitions?
Absolutely. Like I think absolutely.
Because
Like
people got to get inventive, I imagine.
yeah, I think it just goes back to like you have a task in front of you and you have an end goal. How do I get from point A to point B? What's the fastest way? And it's like you're just you watch the people throw their bodies. Like I did uprising myself,
Okay.
and so like you think something's gonna work, and you're like, okay, here, this isn't
Yeah.
pretty, but I'm gonna get there. Like so you just kind of figure it out, and body weight, it has a lot to do with it.
Okay.
Because if your arms are gassed, then find a way to let your legs help you.
Yeah. Well, and we talked a little bit about uprising last week. It's got to make it challenging, that angle of the rope, like when you're
Oh,
kind
yeah, I
of
didn't
trying
even
to
think of that.
trying to pull.
I didn't think.
the one where they're like running like this and the thing is going up. Oh yeah.
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 Because last week there was a guy that was really tall and skinny, and he was like getting pretty much like floating back in the air. and
Yeah,
going back.
Yeah, So when Anthony did it, strongman, like
Right.
he pulls semi trucks.
Exactly.
We were
Right.
laughing so hard because I was like, that I had done that event, and I knew how hard it was, and he literally did it in like 6 seconds, and I'm like,
Wait, I've seen you pull a truck.
yeah.
Shannon pulled a truck on her Instagram.
I
Is
did.
that
Did you
right?
really?
I pulled
Wow.
the track, yeah. I was
Guys,
like,
You
let
know
me try.
I'm gonna
I
have
was
to see
watching.
that.
That's
I'm gonna have
funny
to
than
see
what we
that.
were just talking about, because I was watching your video. I was like, I might be able to do that.
See, look at that. Seamless integration at Shannon Shape on Instagram.
Wait, was the motor in that thing?
It was in neutral. It was a big track. We went out to Muscle Farm, so they have a corporate like gym out there. It's crazy. It's like 30,000 square feet or whatever. So like, you want to pull a truck today? I was like, yes, I do. just try.
Sometimes you just gotta pull it down.
I think actually I was filming for my buddies. my buddy Ryan, I was filming for him, and then like they had like stopped to look at the video, and I just like snuck in to be like, girls can do this too. Like I don't think I was supposed to do that actually, and then they like grabbed the phone and they're like, oh, she's doing it, she's going. So yeah,
That's incredible.
yeah. I think I pushed the truck. I pushed and pulled. So I had a rope attached. I pulled it, and then I would push it, and then pull it, and then push
Well,
it.
whatever you did, it was cool.
Exactly. That's-
It made me
at the end
wanna
of the
try.
day, it's really what we care
You know
about.
what's so funny though, and with the Titan games, everything looks cool and is hard. Sometimes on Instagram, like the coolest looking stuff's not really that hard.
Yeah.
Like sometimes like the hardest stuff is like the simple stuff where you're not moving barely, so it doesn't look cool on Instagram. But like,
Right.
yeah, so.
Yeah, sometimes you got to get the really kind of exciting
Dynamic,
stuff. The dynamic,
like, yeah.
exactly. That's the word.
Yeah.
Oh, so good. Well, at the end of the day, we've got Christopher Watts and Jess Griffith moving on to the Battle of the Titans at the end of this season. Absolutely insane runs on Mount Olympus. Shannon, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes,
You
thank you.
guys.
We can't
Yes.
say when, but we will be tuning in all season long, watching out for you.
Yes, soon.
Definitely. We'll tell our lovely viewers and or listeners at home what you're working on and where they can find you.
Yes, so I am working on online programs, so you'll soon be able to work out with me from anywhere in the world. So I have a lot of personal training clients, so that's been like a side project for me and very exciting. It's coming up soon. And then I'm Shannon Shape on all social platforms.
Fantastic. Thank you
Nice.
so much for
Yeah.
joining us. Guys,
Yeah.
thank you for joining us. This is so much fun to talk about. We'll be back here same time, same channel, talking episode 4. But let's go down the line, go down the panel. Guys, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram at David Punk Rock Christopher or Twitter DPR Christopher. I am David Christopher, so thank you so much for hanging out with
See,
us.
it's
I did
brand
that backwards.
synergy.
Yes, Tyra.
Yeah, and you guys can follow me again on all social media platforms at _Tyra Prude.
And you guys can follow me on Instagram at Julana and on Twitter at Julana Dizon.
Definitely. And you can find me on all forms of social media at Ty Matthews PMA. The Magicians After Show comes back season 4 next week. Watch out for that. Catch me on Championship Wrestling from Hollywood on Saturdays. And until next week, until episode 4, same time, same channel, Thursday night, 9 p.m. Pacific. We will see you then.
Good night.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.